Tube amplifiers are a largely mono-aural affair, especially in the vintage world. Our favorite amps usually sound their best turned up as loud as the speakers can reasonably handle, with the guitar plugged straight into it and using the guitar's volume knobs to control how much we're driving the preamp. Unfortunately, effects loops didn't come into prominence until the 1980s, so what are you supposed to do if you want reverb, delay, or other effects on the sound of your favorite vintage amp if it doesn't have a reverb circuit of its own? Or to take this a step further, what about doing this live, in stereo? This week, we're going to take a look at a setup that takes advantage of all of that, while featuring a great selection of vintage amps and guitars, with both Nick Mardon and one of our favorite guests, Aaron Hiebert. Today we start with a mouthful of an amp, a 1969 Marshall Model 1961 Tremolo 50-watt 410 combo, with no master volume or reverb of course, and a 1965 Fender Jazzmaster, completely original with only one owner before coming to Emerald City Guitars. We'll also be using a pair of 1970s Fender Twin Reverbs as a stereo effect system to back up the sound of our Marshall, using the line out from an attenuator to feed the Marshall sound to a stereo reverb pedal. To be fair, twins are overkill for such a setup, but it's the only pair of reasonably matched amps we had in the shop at the time of filming, so we're going to use them. You could easily get away with a lower powered pair, or even solid-state amps. The trick is to get them spread across the stage or studio room for the best effect, and balancing the volume of the two rigs together within the room. So the setup is going to be run something like this. A single guitar cable between the Jazzmaster and the Bluesbreaker, with a short patch cable to jump the Marshall's input channels. Then, we're going to run that thing nice and loud, as a Bluesbreaker should be used. After that, we're going to unplug the built-in speaker wires and replace that with the standard 1/4-inch speaker cable. Then, connect the speakers to the output of the attenuator, the guitar cable to the line output, and the amp output to the attenuator input. We'll connect that line output to our stereo reverb's input, and feed the left and right channel outputs to each respective Fender Twin. Set the EQ fairly flat and keep the volume nice and low because, again, twins are overkill here. You can also use the built-in spring reverb tanks on the Twins instead of a pedal for this, if that's the sound that you're after. But we'll get to that later this week with Aaron. So first, we're going to have Nick play through just the Bluesbreaker by itself with the Jazzmaster plugged straight into it, which sounds pretty cool by itself, but you'll see what we're talking about when we get to everything plugged in together. For now, we'll leave you with an example of everything all hooked up together with an admittedly generous amount of reverb. Of course, you'd tailor this to the sound of your own music, but we're just having some fun here. Tell us about your experience with setups like this in the comments, and come back tomorrow for a session featuring an all-original 1964 Gibson Firebird 7.